Chapter 23. My Countrymen, My Enemy. For the next 3 days we traveled through forest, followed by more forest. There were no towns or villages, nor any trace of civilization. We ate the last of our venison. We were tired and hungry. At night we shivered with the cold. During the day we were broiled by the sun. Finally, late one afternoon we found ourselves at the edge of a freshly plowed field. In the center, a farmer worked slowly with a plow and a sway-backed horse. We eased back into the woods and discussed what to do, finally agreeing that Sergo and Tamara should wait for me while I went to talk to him. The farmer did not see me until I was only a few meters from him. His head jerked in fear at my approach. At first he looked as though he was going to run away, but in the next instant he fumbled an old revolver from his waistband. "Who are you?" he demanded in oddly accented Russian. I'm a medical orderly," I told him. "I don't mean you any harm. I just need a little help." "I can't help anybody." The old man looked like a reptile. His skin was tough and weathered into folds and scaly crisscrosses of wrinkles. His eyes bulged and, like a lizard's, seemed to move independently of each other. "Go away. Leave me alone." "I'm lost," I said. "At least tell me where I am." "Only if you will leave here, and quickly. These are dangerous times." I nodded. After learning as much as I could from the strange-looking old man, I returned to Sergo and Tamara. "We're in the Ukraine," I told them, "about 8 kilometers from the Czechoslovakian border. There's been heavy fighting in the area for months." We headed off. Not wanting the farmer to see us, we circled the field through the woods, eventually emerging on a dirt road. We hurried along it, nervous, wary. At first I didn't know what I was seeing. We were passing an orchard. High up in leafless trees, items of clothing fluttered as if they'd been washed and hung out to dry. Then we saw shell craters, blasted out circles in the orchard, and bodies. Many were naked, and I realized the people had literally been blown out of their clothes. I spotted a Russian soldier, his broken body twisted against a tree. Nearby lay 2 more. Sergo joined me. We went through backpacks, finding food, clothing, bedrolls, and other items. We also found 2 rifles, only one of which was still usable, and more ammunition than we could carry. Perhaps an hour later we found ourselves approaching the ruins of a town, the roadway paved with bits of shrapnel. We passed abandoned trenches and machine gun nests, and everywhere there was wrecked, rusting equipment, cannons, tanks, and vehicles of various kinds. Among these was a colossal fire-blackened German troop carrier with several rows of seats for soldiers. The sides of the thing were pierced with thousands of bullet holes, giving the contraption the appearance of some sort of huge, wheeled sieve. The houses and other structures in the town had been turned into one long mountainous woodpile, all of them reduced to broken planks and boards piled every which way amidst other rubble. Near the end of town was a small hotel, a 2-story affair of battered brick and plaster. A winding stairway led nowhere, abruptly ending in midair. Resting on a ragged-edged platform, once part of the flooring of an upstairs room, was a bed. Nearby was a closet, in which clothes hung neatly. A kilometer or more from the town, we came to a shell-pocked stone structure, bearing a brass sign reading, Pedagogical College. "It's getting late," said Tamara. "We're tired." "Yes, tired," said Sergo, a smile revealing decayed and missing teeth. An oversized door squeaked on its hinges. We filed in through a small lobby and then into the silent ruins of an auditorium. Most of the seats had been torn up, probably for fuel. On a sagging stage, a huge scarlet curtain hung lopsided. "This place was used by German soldiers," said Tamara. "And just about everybody else," I added. On the walls were comical drawings, mostly obscene, but not badly drawn. And there were names and messages by the dozen, in German, Ukrainian, Czech, and Polish. Overall, the place gave the impression of a trash dump. Everywhere there was litter, broken furniture, empty food tins, wine bottles, and dank, rotting clothing. There were several large oil drums that had been used as makeshift heaters and stoves. We opened the tins of food we had found in the Russians' packs and ate hungrily. We pulled shirts, jackets, socks, and blankets from the packs. We put the clothing on. We covered ourselves with the thin blankets and were soon fast asleep. Early the next morning we were off again. Tinged orange by the rising sun, a cool fog blotted out the world. From somewhere far off we heard artillery fire, and from behind suddenly came the sound of heavy footsteps. We hurried along the road. Moments later we watched as a long, stretched-out column of weary-looking German soldiers tramped past. In the eerie gaze they looked spectral, like a troop of ghosts. My palms were wet with perspiration, my mouth dry. I was scared to death of them. I wore a Russian shirt, had a Russian pack on my back, and carried a Russian Simonova rifle. My own countrymen had become my enemy. Their footsteps faded. Then they were gone. Then I breathed easier. We headed off, past the burnt ruins of a church, and then across fields of dead grass. Ahead, through the mist, I saw a dark-haired little girl sitting on the stoop of a farmhouse. In her lap was a kitten. Smiling, the little girl picked up one of the animal's tiny paws and waved it at us. Dobrое utro, guten Morgen. Good morning, she said to us, first in Russian, then in German. Dobrое utro, said Tamara with a smile. Around mid-morning the fog finally burned off. A spectacular day opened before us. All was quiet and serene. The sky an electrical blue, spotted with puffy, stationary-looking clouds. The artillery fire we had heard earlier had stopped. As we waded through knee-high grass down a long, winding slope, everything seemed almost too tranquil and beautiful to be true. Several large areas of the slope were covered with colorful sweeps of wild flowers in bloom. Reds, whites, pinks, and purples mingled, quietly ruffled by a soft breeze. "It's so pretty, isn't it?" mused Tamara, wandering a bit ahead of Sergo and me. I was about to agree. My eyes happened to fall on the sight that sickens me to this day. Amidst the flowers, sticking out from a grassy mound, were two skeletonized arms from which bits of rotten cloth were hanging. The arms looked as though they were reaching out from the ground for help. "So beautiful," said Tamara, having walked right past them without noticing.